Today I'm going to share some of the tips and tricks that I used when painting a small bouquet of watercolor flowers. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Michelle. On this channel we do all things watercolor as well as drawing and mixed media. Please do consider subscribing. Unlike many channels here on YouTube, we are fully cat approved. Now, regular viewers may be thinking to yourselves, an extra video on a Wednesday, Michelle, what joy is this? This is the video that is going to launch my latest watercolor flowers painting course, but I'll also be taking you through the entire process that I used to create one of the modules, which was module 8, where we painted a bouquet of flowers. So keep watching to see all of my tips and tricks. And whilst I'm painting, I'll tell you about my newest online course. I'm really proud of it. So here's the source photograph I'm working from. It's a photo that I took myself. I've actually also got the flowers, the real flowers in front of me because my printer tends to print things far too dark. This flower here, for example, is a bright orange and it's made it almost a coral red. So it's always good to have the real thing to look at. Now what I'm showing you here is actually module 8 of my newest flower painting course. So I'm going to tell you all about that during the course of this video, but if that's not something you're interested in, don't worry, there'll be lots of tips as well. Now I'm sure you can see that I've actually used some tracing here. I've traced parts of these, and that's just because the particular module, although the course does involve a lot of freehand drawing, and I do teach you how to draw flowers, just for speed, I've done some tracing here because this particular module, module 8, is all about painting a group of flowers for the first time. So I don't want either myself or other people to be distracted by the drawing. But you can see that what I've traced is not all of it. I mean, this one here, for example, all of these petals here, you know, I haven't traced them at all. And what that enables me to do is it enables me to have sort of, you know, a guideline to work from so that I can do some freehand drawing, but without going too far offline. I do have a video on YouTube that's called How to Stop Tracing, which will take you through the stages of freehand drawing. And you shouldn't just rely on tracing simply because you need that manual dexterity and that ability to paint what you're seeing. And just having an outline won't save you when you're trying to make a shape with your brush. So I'm big on freehand drawing. And one of the ways that you can start to practice your freehand drawing is by tracing either a part of a picture or just by tracing, you know, a simple outline shape and perhaps the center shape to show you where to put things. So my next tip is to work from light to dark. So it can be very sort of overwhelming to have all of this stuff going on. Where do I start? I'm looking for any white areas first and considering if those areas need any shadow on. So we can see we've only got one set of white here, and that's on the outside of these petals. Think about the ones that are against a white background here. It might be important to put some shadow around those edges there. On the other hand, if I'm going to actually paint a background, then the background can show up these areas. There are also other background techniques where we can just throw a little shadow behind. There's also a little touch of green on some of these, less so on the one over here. I'm going to start with a colour called Petal Shadow. Now, this is a ready-made colour and it's a colour that I designed. It's part of my floral set, but it's easy for you to mix similar colours to this. I put up a video only a week or so ago before this one, all about mixing colours for flower painting. It was deeply unpopular actually. You didn't like that one at all. It's only 14 minutes long, and honestly, it's really important to get the right colours for flower painting, but it's very hard to know what's going to be popular on YouTube. So you can see that I'm wetting the petal first, and then going in with just a touch of this shadow colour. So important not to go too far with this and end up losing all of the whites. So my next tip is if you look at a flower and there's no white on it, then what you can do if it's got multiple petals like this is you can just find the lightest colour, which is this nice bright yellow, and we can just take it across the whole flower. I'm going to just go around that centre part, but other than that, I'm going to take it across the whole flower, and then I can work in later on with darker yellows or shadows and delineate, you know, separate parts of the flower. And whilst I'm doing this, let me tell you about my online courses. Now, as I said at the beginning, I do have a brand new flower painting course, watercolor flower painting course launching today. But you may not have done an online course before or know anything about my online courses. Basically, with my own courses, there's no time limit on them. You buy them and then you've got access to the content forever. I do also sometimes add more content, so you get free upgrades. So there's no time limit. You can stop and start. You don't have to think, oh, I've only got 2 weeks to get this done. And basically what you get are videos and PDFs, and I walk you through every stage of understanding flower paintings. I'll tell you more about what's in this particular course as I go through this painting. I also have mini courses though, where you can do a single project like this one right the way from start to finish and paint along with me. I'm going to allow this yellow flower to dry. So while some of these flat washes are drying, my next tip is that sometimes you need 2 paintbrushes and 2 water jars on the go. So I'm going to go into these white flowers with the strong sort of plum purple on the inside. I've mixed up 2 colours here. I've got a colour called fuchsia from my flower painting set, which is the closest colour for you would be magenta, maybe a quinacridone magenta. And here I've got some ultramarine, some French ultramarine. You can see that as I mix these together, I'm getting just the right sort of colour. But I also need to apply clean water so that we get a soft bleeding effect. Now, as soon as I dip my paintbrush into the water, I'm going to end up with, purple water. And the next time I need to wet a flower, I'm not going to maintain the white. So whilst I'm doing this, I'm going to be using this small brush to apply the colour, a larger brush to apply the water, and I'm going to be using separate water jars. It's not as complicated as it may sound until you put the wrong one in the wrong water jar, and then you've just got to take another trip to the kitchen. So let's see how it's done, and I'll also tell you some more about my flower painting course while I'm painting. So here I'm applying the clean water, going in with my strong colour. The wetter this second colour is, the more it will bleed, and I do want some bleeding going on here. And I'll be sure to work on petals that are not next to each other so we don't get bleeding from one petal to the other. So what can you expect in my latest course? Well, we start with a magnolia tutorial. What I did in my last course, which was my Paint Any Landscape course, was I kind of threw people in the deep end and said, have a go at this photograph, have a go at painting it without any tuition. And what we do is we use that so that at the end of the course you can do the same picture again with all the tuition and the help that you've had on the new knowledge that you have, and then you have the same picture to look at the end before you had my tutorial and afterwards. And it's a real way of checking that you have progressed, because nobody wants to take a course and not be any further ahead at the end of the course than they are at the beginning. So once you've had a go at painting your magnolia picture, then we put it aside, literally in a drawer where you can't see it, and we start working through the course modules. The first module goes through materials, not just the materials I'm using in the course, but also how to choose the best materials for flower painting. And there's a little bit of instruction about how to actually use the course. All of my courses as well have a login guide, so that if you find that you can't log in for some reason, you've lost your password, whatever's going on, it should give you a little bit of help to get you back into the course quickly. The second module is drawing. So drawing is super important, and I go through all my flower drawing tips. The third module is composition, because just how you lay things out is really as important as actually, anybody can learn to draw something, but that doesn't always make a good picture, does it? When I first started painting, I was very frustrated by things just like I would seem to get the drawing right, but the painting would still look awful, and it was usually composition. After those basics, I go through all of my favourite techniques that I use the most often for painting flowers. I'm going to carry on working between petal after petal as I finish these 2 flowers. At this point, I just want to pop in and remind you, could you please just press the like button for me? The thumbs up really makes a big difference to the YouTube algorithm, enables me to make more free videos here on YouTube and help more people to learn to paint and draw. Now, another tip that I've got for you, as well as working light to dark, is that things with red and purple in tend to bleed quite heavily when you work up to the edge of them. So I've got some sort of deep pink roses up here, and I'm going to be careful to do this orange flower first, or at least the underwash of this orange flower first. I did part of it in light colours, you can see. But if I put that dark pink flower in first, then there would be a danger that as I painted the orange petals in front of it, they would bleed. And so I'm going to put this underwash in next. So let's tell you some more about my flower painting course. So once we've gone through the composition, the drawing, the techniques, then we go on to practicing single petals, because it can be quite overwhelming to do a whole bunch of flowers like this, or even a whole flower. So painting petals is the way to go. So we start by practicing petals, and that's our module 6. And then in module 7, I give you some techniques for painting leaves. Now, unless you're painting a single leaf, then the leaves should always be sort of the supporting cast that props the flowers up. So they can be done fairly simply, and I'm going to give you in the course some ways of painting light veins, dark veins. People often use masking fluid to do this, but it's really not effective. If you've tried it yourself, you've probably been a little bit unhappy with the results and found that it doesn't look very natural. I also show you how to do leaves with shine and give you some photographs to practice from, which takes us into the course, into module 8, which is the module that you'll see me doing part of here, as I take you through every stage of understanding how to paint a group of flowers together. So my next tip is about being careful which colours you use to darken flower petals. We never want to use brown because that will kill our flowers and make them look like they're dying. But there are other colours that I wouldn't use either, particularly heavy greys. Now I've got some permanent rose here, and I'm going to use a colour from my floral set called Delphinium. You can make a similar colour just by taking some ultramarine and putting a little bit of purple or pink in it. In other words, it's a colour that sits between blue and purple. And I'm just going to pop a little bit of that colour down the bottom edge here. And in this way, we can get shadows that have a lot of life to them. Not going to kill your flower in any way. You can use blues on purples on most red flowers. Obviously keep them in small areas, otherwise you could end up changing the whole colour of the flower. So after this module in my course, there's one more full module, and that is backgrounds and vases, where we go through different types of backgrounds to create for flowers. And after that final module, I then take you through a full 5-video tutorial of painting the magnolias again, complete with a gum arabic background, which gives you something then to compare against the initial painting that you made. There are also bonus materials in the course, so there's a fully curated list of YouTube videos. Now, obviously the YouTube videos are already available for free, but I've got over 300, so it can be quite hard to know which ones might be best for you if you're learning flower painting. There are also some copyright-free photographs that you can download at the end of the course to continue painting your flowers. Again, it's possible to find copyright-free photographs quite easily on the internet, but I don't know about you, but I find with those copyright-free sites, what tends to happen is the photographers, they're all very good, but they tend to sort of prioritize making a pretty picture, and I find the bits that I really want to paint have been kind of, put behind strange lenses and blurred out. And so I think to find something that's suitable for an artist, I have got some very good photos from those sites, but it also can be a little bit of a search. I'm going to continue painting these roses, going between each petal so that I don't paint next to one that's damp, which will encourage that paint to bleed across, and I want crisp edges between my flower petals. So my next tip is when painting flowers and you want to get darker areas and shadow areas, you can use darker versions of the colour itself. So here I'm using just the original colour with some Pyrrole red mixed in, but I could also use some colour opposite. I've got my Delphinium colour here, or for orange you could use something like French ultramarine. And by using that colour opposite, you're going to get really vibrant shadows. You still have to be a little bit careful. You don't want to kill your flower by using too much shadow colour, which is why whenever possible, I will use just a darker, stronger mix of the original colour. I'm going to continue painting this flower and the other ones that already have the underwashes before I go in with the centre details and the leaves. So my next tip is to add and remove pencil as you go along. Now, pencil can get trapped underneath layers of paint, And as I said at the beginning, I have to put a lot more pencil on so that people can see when I'm filming a tutorial than I would otherwise. I would keep it much fainter. But nevertheless, pencil can still get trapped underneath colours. It tends to get trapped under yellow a lot because yellow tends to have a certain opacity to it. But there are just times when we don't need the pencil anymore. If you have a look at this flower here, you can see that there's lots of pencil around this inside part. I don't need that anymore because the purple paint's going to show me exactly where to put the centres of the flowers. So now it's dry, I can remove that pencil. It's going to stop it getting trapped under another layer of paint. Another thing I can do is I can add more pencil. I didn't put much detail on this flower here. Perhaps I'm a little nervous now and I'm not quite sure where to paint. I can add more pencil, and I've got a huge advantage here because this pencil isn't trapped under the green layer, which means that it will remove more easily later on. So don't be afraid to add and remove pencil as you go. Another thing I sometimes do is I just lighten the pencil. So I've gone quite strong here and I'm starting to work in with these areas of pink for shadow. I can just take my eraser just lightly across the whole area so that I can still see where to paint, but there's a lot less pencil to get trapped before I start going in and adding structure to these petals. Now, we can't paint light on dark with watercolour, but we can do something called negative painting, and it's really useful for these flowers where we have multiple small flowers. So I've got this underwash here, and I can actually use this slightly darker green. In fact, it's exactly the same green. I've just used more pigment and less water, and I can start to actually make shapes in it. And you're getting then the same effect as light on dark, but we're really just painting the dark in between and leaving gaps. This colour is fresh green. It's one of the 3 natural greens from my flower painting set. If you're interested in my own branded paints, do have a look in the video description because you'll find a discount code down there. So my next tip is to use watercolor pencil for details. Really useful for lines on petals, but also for the center of flowers that have seeds in the middle, daisy type flowers like this, things like sunflowers where you have all this stuff going on in the middle. It can seem a little bit overwhelming. So I'm painting in the center here some diarylide yellow from my essentials set and a touch of fresh green from my floral set. Being careful not to touch those purple areas too much as they will tend to bleed. I've actually got an Inktense pencil here, but they work pretty much the same way as watercolor pencils. And I'm just going to use this pencil to get some detail in the middle here. Now the main difference with Inktense pencils is they don't re-wet once they're dry, but that's something I almost never do anyway with watercolor pencils. I just want to go a little lighter around the outside, so I'm using a damp brush that I've cleaned and dried just to lift out some more paint, and we can easily get a detailed result. So I'm at the stage now where I'm painting my leaf in at the back here. I've already painted a center stem and allowed it to dry. Let me tell you how you can get a discount off of my new flower painting course. Whether this video has just come out or whether you're watching it in, 2 years' time and all launch discounts have finished, there's a link in the video description. You can click through. You're not committing yourself to anything by having a look there, and you'll find a full sales page that gives you, every single part of the curriculum in detail. You can find out exactly what the course is about. And if the course has been up for a little bit of time, there will of course be reviews there. Most of my courses get 5-star reviews. I do not sell $5 courses because they take many hours and weeks of work to make. I am very pleased with them. Nevertheless, they are still fairly affordable. So for the launch discount on this one, it's the biggest discount we've ever done on launch. And the courses are never as cheap again as they will be at the time of launch. So we never repeat that discount. So the full price of this course after the discount period is ended will be $159 US. If you're buying from somewhere else, it will just convert it for you. And we have a 2-week launch period whereby you can get that course for $99 US. If you're not sure how much that is in your own currency, just pop it into Google. It'll give you a rough idea. Obviously, conversion rates vary from day to day, but it'll give you a ballpark figure. Now, if you're watching this video and that period has ended, the largest sale I have every year is Boxing Day, when we have a site-wide sale on all my courses. You can also find small sales through the year, maybe one course or another. This course is unlikely to be on sale again this year since it's just been launched, and the next time you'll be able to get a discount on it will be on Boxing Day. That's Boxing Day through to New Year's. But if you make sure you're on my mailing list, then you'll find out about any sales, and there's usually a little discount for anyone that's on the mailing list or in the Facebook group. You can grab year round. You'll find a link to my Facebook group in the video description, and it's easy to get on my mailing list. You can either fill in the form that's on my website, or if you buy any course that includes free courses, or if you download any of the free PDFs that I have in the description of this video, you'll automatically get popped on the mailing list unless you unsubscribe. I don't spam anybody. There's usually one email a week. I try to give some value in each email. And if you unsubscribe, the program does not allow me to add you back in. But why would you unsubscribe when they are such excellent emails? I'm going to continue painting this flower painting. I'll put a picture up at the end so you can see how it looks. So do let me know in the comments if you enjoy painting watercolor flowers as much as I do. And don't forget to pop down there as well. Click the link through to my newest course. You're not signing up for anything just by clicking the link, but it will give you a full page of lots more information so you can decide if this course is for you. And don't forget that the discount I offer on a course launch is never repeated. So whatever sales I may have in the future, it'll never be as cheap as this again. And if you do love painting flowers as much as me, I think you'll enjoy this next video.